I know it's still a little bit early, but I think we can go ahead and get started just so that way we have enough time to get covered everything that we're doing. So welcome guys to week 5. We are officially halfway through our eco session. So we, like I said, have made it through our first half, and then we will be starting our second half. So just as an update / reminder, you will be receiving your second box next week. So your second box will have weeks 6 through 10. So they'll have the second half of our lessons for that. Due to the snow coming, of course, this week, which, of course, we're dealing with snow all the time, potentially those boxes might be delayed. If that is the case, that's totally fine. The stuff that we're going to do next week doesn't necessarily, you won't have to necessarily do it right away, or you can do it once you eventually get your box. So if that is the case, I will be keeping your parents updated on if there is potentially a delay with the box, but you should be expecting to get them, like I said, next week for our next session, or our next, I should say, half of the session. So like I said, we are officially halfway through. Again, still, similar setup. We'll be talking about animals, seeing them, doing a craft, all that kind of stuff. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are going to kind of quickly look at an animal that we didn't get to see last week. Again, because of the snow, I, of course, had to be home. But now that I'm at Irvine, as you can see, I have access to our animals. So we're going to be able to check one of them out as well. So again, we're going to go over that animal real quick, just as a review of our types of animals from last week. And then we'll jump right into reptiles for this week and go over the animal, the other animal that I have as well. So I'm going to go ahead and grab him out, or out, I should say. And we'll kind of quickly go over this type of animal and what type of animal it is. Alrighty, so this is an example of our animal friend. Like I said, this is the type of animal we talked about last week. Does anybody want to guess as to what type of animal this is? Evelyn, go for it. What type of animal do you think it is?
Toad.
The toad. Ooh, awesome. Do we agree? Do we disagree? What do you guys think? Oh, I see thumbs up. Wonderful. Absolutely. You are 100% correct. She is a toad. Easiest way to tell she's a toad versus a frog. You guys can see her really, really bumpy skin on the back of her body, really her whole body. She's got her really cool 2 eyeballs here, her nice big mouth as well. So she's definitely a toad. She also has her legs, if you guys remember her stages. She's actually missing one of her legs, which is pretty interesting. That actually is a reason why we have her here at Irvine. Because what we think happens is when she started off, if you guys remember, they start off as what? What do frogs and toads start off as? Jackson, do you want to go for it?
Tadpoles.
Tadpoles, perfect, absolutely. Tadpoles, or they start off as eggs first and then they become a tadpole. So what we think happens is, if you guys remember that whole circle, there's the different stages. They eventually get their legs. Well, we think she just never fully developed her one leg. So for whatever reason, she just never got a second, or I'm sorry, technically a 4th leg, again, for whatever reason. So she has a little bone there, but she doesn't have like her full-on foot like she does right here. So it's during some point of her development when she became an adult toad, she just never developed it, which sometimes happens. So that's why we have her at Irvine. Like I said, she's really cool. Again, kind of brief reminder about toads. They have a really soft, sensitive skin that they're able to absorb things in. Again, they have, a nice big mouth with that tongue that sticks out and catches the food and stuff like that. So that's, like I said, why we have her. So I wanted to show you her because, again, she's a really awesome animal to show. Like I said, really, really cool and neat. Anybody have any questions about her real quick before we jump right into our next, jump into our actual topic of this week? Anybody have any questions? If not, totally fine. Like I said, she's pretty cool, pretty neat. She's got her little eyeballs too. All right, awesome. So like I said, that's just a reminder of our type of animal last week, since we talked about amphibians. And this week we are switching gears and we're talking about reptiles. So when talking about reptiles, they are different from amphibians. Like I said, I'm going to go over this paper real quick that has our kind of main types of reptiles that you find. So maybe the most popular, the most common one that you think about is our little turtle friends. So we have a regular, I guess you could say regular, turtle, and we have a tortoise. Main difference between the two of them is that one mainly lives on land, whereas the other mainly lives in water. That isn't the only difference. There are many other differences between them. Yes, Jackson, do you have a question or?
I know what one difference is. Everybody thinks that turtles are slow, but turtles are faster than tortoises.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you brought that up. I would absolutely agree. Your tortoises tend to be your really bigger, basically the bigger version of a turtle generally. And like Jackson said, they tend to be slower, whereas your generic or your regular turtles, they tend to actually be pretty fast. If I were to show you, we do have turtles here, and maybe at some point I'll be able to show you. Turtles can actually move pretty quickly when they're a little bit nervous or a little bit scared. So that's a really great difference between the two. I love it. Yeah. So those are the two main types. There are plenty of other types of turtles that we could spend all day talking about, but we got to keep going through. Another main group of reptile is our snakes. Snakes are pretty easy to identify. They don't have legs, don't have arms. Pretty notable when you see them as well. And then some other kind of smaller ones. Oh, another big one that's probably easy to identify is our crocodile here. We don't have any native crocodiles or alligators in Maryland, meaning that you won't find them if you go out somewhere in the water. It's a little too cold for them to be up here. And then your other ones are different types of lizards. So for example, we have our skink, we have just our regular lizard, we have our gecko, and we have our chameleon. So as I mentioned, we have a whole bunch of different types of ones, again, all looking very similar. The main kind of point to look at this picture is to see that they all look very different from each other. And that's just how reptiles are. They look, again, different, but they do share things together that make them all reptiles. So to go over those things, I figured we would go ahead and jump into our other animal friend that we have. So like I said, this is an example of one of our types of reptiles. So gives me a second to grab our friend out. Take a sip of water. So as I mentioned, we have this animal here, and we're going to talk about what makes it a reptile, because there are certain things that these animals have that make them a reptile versus an amphibian or a mammal. So I'm going to grab him out. Give me 1 second. Pinning myself so I can see him. All right. Grab him out, and we'll talk about him. Sorry, it takes me a second to figure out where his head's at. All righty, so I'm going to show you his whole body, just so that way you can see it. So this is an example of one of them. Does anybody want to tell me what type of reptile it is, given either what you know or from the pictures that we just saw? Evelyn, go for it. What type of reptile do you think this is?
Snake.
A snake, absolutely. Easiest way to tell it's a snake is, as I mentioned, he doesn't have any arms or legs. He's just kind of one long body. So that's perfect. Yeah. So specifically, he is a corn snake. Now he's not called a corn snake because he likes to eat corn. He's actually called that because, one, they're found in cornfields. so where corn grows, as well as he has the kind of reddish orangish coloring similar to Indian corn or native corn that we have here in the US. So that's why he's called that as well. So like I said, he doesn't eat corn specifically, but he does like to be around corn because his main food source likes to be in those fields. Does anybody know what snakes in general like to eat or what type of things they like to eat? Let's see, Jackson, go for it.
Different kind of snakes like different kind of things. So some snakes like rats, and some snakes like not vegetables, plants and other stuff.
So you were right on the first part. So all snakes are carnivores, meaning that they only eat meat. So for example, this snake specifically, he likes to eat mice and rats, or really kind of smaller, maybe like a small chipmunk, maybe even possibly a small bird. But they all are carnivores. And so that again is specific for snakes particularly. Some even eat toads and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. Because he also has a really cool feature in his mouth. So what he has is obviously he doesn't have any arms or legs that he can bring his food in. So what he does is he will strike at an animal to then be able to kill it. And then he's able to actually open up his mouth really wide and swallow his food whole, which we know as humans, we don't want to do that because we might choke and it's not great. But snakes are actually really great and able to do that because of the way their mouth is shaped. So they're able to, what we call unhinging their jaw. So you can imagine you can open your jaw so wide, and that's as far as you can open it, and can't really do anything else with it. So, but these guys, they can actually open their jaw much wider than what their mouth size is, if that makes sense. And they do that so that way, again, they can then swallow whatever their food source is whole, and they don't have to chew it or anything like that. Yes, Casey, did you have a question?
I was just seeing if you noticed me with my name, like, maybe she can't see you, like, she can. And I was like making sure you can see me.
Yeah, I can see you. Yeah.
Hard time logging on with my name, or don't know what she's doing.
That's okay. Sometimes, it takes a little bit of time, so not a problem at all. So again, kind of quickly going over what makes it a reptile. So the first thing that you can tell if an animal is a reptile is by what it's covered in. So if you look really closely at his skin, he has all of these little kind of bumps and different kind of grooves that you can see. They're kind of shiny. Besides just the coloring, you can see all of these little kind of marks. And what those are scales. So snakes have scales on their body. So we have skin on our body. It's nice and soft. Snakes have what we call scales. They have it on the top, and they also have it underneath as well. And what those scales do is it basically protects them from the environment, just like our skin does. And these scales, again, are covering their body, and they need to have really tough scales because a lot of times they are in areas that have a bunch of leaves or has the tree bark or whichever. So they need to make sure their scales are nice and tough as well. So while they're nice and soft, like if I were to feel them, you can see how shiny they are too. Again, they need to be nice and soft so he can, for example, snakes can easily glide on through wherever they're going. But also, again, is really nice and tough. So that way he can make sure he doesn't get hurt while he's moving around. Another thing that all reptiles start off as an egg. So if you think back to amphibians, we talked about how amphibians eventually they start as, eggs to then tadpoles to then the adult. Frogs and toads do that. All reptiles start off as an egg, kind of like a bird or a chicken egg. They start off in that hard egg, and then when they come out of that egg, they become a hatchling, and then they eventually grow up into becoming a bigger version of whatever they are. So they all, like I said, start off as eggs, which is something about them. And then the last characteristic of them, or that I want to note, is that they are what we call cold-blooded. Does anybody know what that means before we get into it? Or anybody want to take a guess as to what it means to be cold-blooded? Kai, go for it. What do you think?
That they like to be in hot places.
Okay, all right. I like what you're thinking. That technically is not wrong. That is kind of correct. I like your thoughts. Anybody want to add to that? Let's see. Casey, go for it. What do you think cold-blooded means?
Cold-blooded? Can you give me a hint?
Give you a hint. So it has to do with their blood. That probably doesn't help. And it has to do with what they, it has to do with hot and cold. So in terms of the hot and cold, has to do with something with that. I'm sure that probably doesn't, if I give you another hint, it'll probably just kind of give it away. That's why I'm like, oh, take a guess. What do you think?
Am I freezing up to you?
What's that?
Am I freezing up to you?
No, you're not freezing. No.
It seems like to me because I'm going really slow.
Yeah. Take a guess.
Take a guess.
Any guesses?
Is it like a snake? Is it like blood in their body, maybe?
It does have to do with the blood in their bodies. Yep. Let's see. We'll get one more thought. Jackson, what do you think cold-blooded means? And guesses.
It means they always need to stay warm because you always have to keep lights over them. Because if they're too cold, they can die because they're cold. Because their blood is colder than normal people.
I see. All right. Yeah. So you're not 100% incorrect. It's kind of like halfway there. So what it means to be cold-blooded is it doesn't actually have to do with the temperature of their blood. So for example, if I were to take his temperature, it would be lower, but it's not necessarily like cold. What it means to be cold-blooded is it means he can't keep his body at the same temperature by itself. So what that means, so you right there sitting at your house or your home or wherever you're at, your body is keeping yourself nice and warm at probably like 99, 98 degrees. And your body is doing that all by itself. You don't have to think about how much your body temperature is changing. When your body temperature does change though, for example, what happens to your body when you get super hot? What do you do when you get really, really hot? Kai, go for it.
You sweat?
Perfect. You sweat. So when your body gets too hot, its reaction to make you cooler is to sweat, which gets rid of the excess water in your body and it creates a layer. So it makes it nice and cool for your body. What does your body do when it gets too cold? Your body does that. Casey, what does your body do when you get too cold? You shiver. Perfect. Yes, you shiver because you're really cold, or you get goosebumps on your skin, on your body. And that again is a way your body makes sure that you start to get warm, because that movement is making your body get nice and warm. Also, if you've ever had your fingertips be really cold, but the rest of your body is warm, again, that's your body doing stuff to make sure it either gets nice and cool or it gets warmer. Cold-blooded animals, such as reptiles, specifically snakes, their body doesn't do that stuff. Their body isn't able to do it. So what they have to do is they actually have to do physical things to either get them warm or to either get them cold. So for example, if my snake is getting a little bit cold, where do you think he should go outside to get him nice and warm? What's a really great source of heat that you can find outside? For example, it's in the sky and it makes you nice and warm when you stand in it. Kai, go for it.
The sun.
The sun, perfect, yes. So if he was out in the wild and he was getting a little bit too cold, what he would do is he would go out and he would find where the sun is at, or he would find where the sun is hitting, I should say. So if he were able to, find a log that had some sun on it, or he just went out of the forest and just was sitting in the grass where the sun is at, that's how he would get himself warm. What do you think he would do if he's too hot? Where do you think he should go? So he's in the sun, he got himself nice and warm, but now he's getting a little too hot. Where do you think he should go, or what should he do? Casey, go for it.
Maybe if it was snowing, he might have hopped in the snow.
True. If there was snow around, he might hop into the snow. The snow might be a little too cold for him, but I like your thinking. Let's see, what else? Jackson, where could he go if he was too hot?
They like to go and puddle the water because it's not too cold for them, but the sun still shined on it. So
Yeah.
they just sit there. They just lay in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So perfect. He would go into some body of water. So water is a great thing to help cool off animals because again, it's a cooler temperature, no matter what it is outside, it's a cooler temperature than what the, everyday outside temperature is. So he would either go in water or he would go and find some shade. So if he was out in the field or in the sun and he was getting a little bit too warm, he would then move himself and go into the shade, and that would help cool his body down as well. So again, that is what it means to be cold-blooded. So it doesn't necessarily mean your body is always going to be cold or your blood is cold. It just means that you actually have to do things to make your body either warm or cold, versus with us as humans, our body does that whole job by itself and we don't have to think about it. We don't have to actually do that, which is nice. It's kind of a nice thing we don't have to think about. So before we get into our craft, does anybody have any specific questions about him? That's kind of our main basics of our reptiles and stuff. Any questions or comments about him? Evelyn, go ahead.
How long is he?
Oh, good question. How long is he? He is probably, if I were to try and stretch him out, he's probably about 2 feet long, maybe about 3 feet long. So he's probably about, maybe about half the size of you guys, about as long as that is. So he is a pretty long snake. And this is about the normal size that they get. That's about how long they get. We do have another snake. It's called our gray rat snake that we have. He's actually over 7 feet long. So he's taller than I am. I mean, I'm only 5 feet, so I'm not very tall. It's not a great comparison. But he's taller than most adults. He's probably taller than what your parents are or your guardians or whoever. So again, pretty cool. These guys, they only get to maybe about 2 or 3 feet, if that. Kai, go ahead. Question?
I saw a little rat snake when I was going on a hike.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, they're really common to find in this area. Normally, if you find a black snake that's a little bit longer, it's probably a rat snake. But that's awesome. That's cool that you found one. Casey, go ahead.
Can we see him, the rat snake?
The rat snake. So he is in his enclosure right now. So maybe in the coming weeks, maybe I can show you guys him. But as of now, I have to go and grab him and stuff. He is in his exhibit. So I'm downstairs at our level right now, and all the animals live upstairs in their homes. They each have individual homes. So he's upstairs right now. So I would have to go over and grab him and stuff like that. So maybe, like I said, maybe next week or in the coming weeks, I can go and grab him and you guys can see him as well. He, like I said, he's huge. He's quite large, which is cool. But yeah, I'll show you guys some point in time. So I'm going to go ahead and put him away real quick, and then we'll have just about enough time to go over our craft as well. If you don't have the craft items or materials, that's okay. Not a big deal. Also, I have him in a pillowcase. And the reason that he is in a pillowcase versus, oh, he's also coming out, say hello. The reason that he's in a pillowcase and not just like a normal container, not just like a container that our toad friend is in, is snakes are actually really great escape artists, meaning that they like to get out of places that they are in containers in. And they're able to do that because they're actually really strong. Like imagine that your whole body is just one big muscle or like a continuation of just very strong muscles. So snakes a lot of times get out of their either their enclosure or whatever container you have them in. So we keep him in a pillowcase. He can still breathe just fine and stuff like that in there, but it's a good way to make sure that he stays in there. Yes, Jackson, do you have a question or comment to add?
They also do that because some of the snakes are venomous, so you have to actually hold them by their head and close their mouth.
Yeah, I didn't mention that with him as well. But there are venomous snakes out there. And venomous just means they have venom in their body that they inject into their prey to then kill the prey. Versus like these guys are constrictors, meaning that they kill their prey by attacking it and then wrapping around the animal to constrict it or to basically squeeze it. But you're right. Yes, there are those types and stuff like that as well. So we're going to, like I said, get into our craft. We have about 2 minutes left. So like I said, if you have materials with you, great. If you don't, not a problem. We're going to do our lovely bead craft. So you should have a container that has all of the items that you need in here. So you can go ahead and open it up and investigate inside. So you can dump all the stuff safely out. So the first thing you'll see is we have our handy dandy pipe cleaner. So this is going to be your snake body. And then you should also have some, try and make sure I can show them, some little googly eyes as well. That will obviously be the eyes of your snake. And then you have all of your different beads as well for that. So very, very simple, easy way to make your snake. You can also make it however you like, but you want to start off with your handy dandy pipe cleaner. As you can see, I've kind of got some swirls in mind. You can, I think most of them probably have swirls because they were in the container. But anyway, what you want to do is you want to kind of make off a little flat section at the very top or at one of the ends that your face is going to be, or where your eyeballs are going to end up being. So as you can see, I have this little flat part right here that's going to be my head of my snake. So at one end, like I said, I'm making a nice straight flat part like that. And then what you do, so you have your head part right here. We're not going to do anything with the head just yet. And then again, the rest of our body. So you're going to go to your opposite end where your head is not at. And you're going to start to add your beads onto your snake body. So I'm going to add it up to the point till about where my head starts. So remember, my head's here, my flat part, and I'm going to start adding the beads on the opposite side. So basically down to where the tail of my snake is. Also, snakes do have tails, fun fact. They are not just one long tail. They do specifically have an end of their tail. So what you basically doing is then you just continue to add your beads along your pipe cleaner. Again, adding them in whatever pattern or whichever color specifically you want to have them as. It's up to you. Like I said, keeping your, let me flip it over, keeping your head part flat like this, and then having the rest of your body for your beads and stuff like that. And so, like I said, just continue to add your beads on to your pipe cleaner. Again, however you would like to have your snake pattern to be. And then I'm not going to show you mine completed just because it's going to take me some time to add all the beads. But once you add all the beads or however many of the beads you want, what you're going to do is you have, like I said, your two googly eyes here. And so the last thing to do with those is you can then add them to the top of your pipe cleaner. Now you will need glue. I can't remember if they do have a sticky back or not, but it probably won't stick very well, also because the eyeballs are pretty small. So take some glue, and what you do is you just put some glue on the back, and you'll just put some glue right here and attach your googly eye to your head, to your flat part right up there. So that's, again, eventually once you put all your beads on, you'll then add your googly eye. I don't have any glue with me right now, so it's hard to kind of show it. But then you'll have both of your eyes at the top, and that'll be the head of your snake. So like I said, pretty straightforward. You just keep adding the beads on. And then at the very end, if you have your googly eyes, you can then add them to the kind of flat top part that we had here. So we are just about over time, but that's okay. So keep working on your craft. Like I said, keep adding your beads and everything like that. Again, as a reminder, you should be receiving your box by next week. Again, hopefully we don't get delayed with snow, but regardless, you should have all your materials for next week. So be on the lookout for the box to be coming within the next couple of days. But like I said, keep working on that. And I will see you guys next week.